Good morning, students. So today we are going to learn social groups. So this is from chapter 2. I think you know about these social groups. Still I am going to repeat it. So let's see what this social group is from the beginning so that you can understand the social groups. So before we start about the social group, what is the social groups, let us see social groups and society, how it is related. So either in ancient society or in a modern society, everywhere, or maybe in western countries or in India, wherever you see, in every society you will find one fact is very much clear and common to everywhere, that is, in every society human groups and collectivities exist. That means there is no society where human groups are not there or collectivities are not there. So everywhere we see there is a human groups, and they cooperate with each other because we are a social animal. So social relationship is very much important actually to build up our society. And one more thing, that is the types of groups and collectivities are different in different societies. As we know that in every society is different from each other. So the way the Western society, the things we use or maybe we consider is correct, maybe in Indian society we see it is not appropriate or maybe not up to the mark, maybe in terms of the Indian society. Okay, so it's the social norms, rules, all these are actually different from each society. So we cannot expect everywhere it is same. Okay, so this is the fact of these social groups and societies. So if we see any of the gathering anywhere, so what this actually the groups, how this groups is there, any gathering of people does not necessarily constitute a social groups. So we cannot say any of the gathering will constitute a social groups. Okay, so it can be considered as a simple groups, but it is not a social groups. If it is a social, we have to follow certain rules and regulations or some criteria are there. If it fulfill, only then we can say it is a social groups. Otherwise we cannot consider it as a social groups. So aggregates are simply collections of people who are in the same place at the same time but share no definite connections with one another. If some people are gathering in one place and if they do not have any interaction among themselves and they do not know each other also, there is no definite connections within themselves, then we cannot consider it as a social groups. It can be called just a group but not as a social groups. So there are certain criteria to fulfill. If it's need to become a social groups, they have to fulfill certain criteria. So example, if you see passengers waiting at a railway stations or airport are example of aggregates. These are only the aggregates. We cannot consider it as a social groups. As we have already mentioned, the social groups uh, need to fulfill certain criteria. So these criteria are not fulfilled here. Okay, so we'll see what are these criteria. So these are the just example of aggregates. So some people just simply they may gather in one place, they cannot constitute a social groups. So such aggregates are often termed as quasi groups. So just for simple reason, if they come together and stay in one place doesn't mean it is a social groups. Like some people are waiting for a bus in a bus stand, or maybe some people have gone to watch a movie in the cinema hall. So this is also cannot be considered as a social groups. It can be a group. So we can say it is a quasi groups. The term it's called as quasi groups. Or maybe some people are gone for watching a football match or a cricket match in a stadium. They all also actually they have come in one place, which make a group, but it cannot be considered as social groups. So these groups can be termed as quasi groups. So let's see what is a quasi group. Quasi groups. A quasi group is an aggregate or combination which lacks structure or organizations, and whose members may be unaware or less aware of the existence of groupings. As I mentioned in an example, some people are waiting for a bus in the bus stands. So this is just mere a aggregate or combination which lacks the structures. So structure is not there, or organization. They are not organized themselves, just simply they have come together, and whose members may be unaware or less aware of the existence of grouping. Actually, these members are not aware that already they have formed a groups, which is termed as quasi groups. So they are not aware about this group forming, okay, group formations. So when you talk about the structure, structures means the structure, it means a pattern. When a repetitive actions is continuously going on, it's a regular or repetitive actions or any of the things which is going on, or interactions, whatever it is there, no, if it is a repetitive way it is going on, it will create a kind of structure. Structures means which is visible, but in the social terms the structures are not visible, but we can see by repetitive actions or repetitive behavior. If it is continuously going on in certain area or certain society, we can consider this is as structures of that society, okay. So social classes, status groups, age and gender groups, crowds can be seen as example of quasi groups. So these are the example of quasi groups who are not aware of their group formations, okay. Like social class, they do not know who are the same class, okay. Or status groups, maybe in the same status many peoples are there, but they are not aware about their groups. Or maybe age, same age group people in this world, or in this if we consider in India, then many people are there at the same age. They also already formed a groups, a quasi group, same age groups. Or maybe the gender, either male or the female, they also constitute a groups, but they are not aware that already they have formed a group. Or the crowd, for some reason they have come together, or they are just waiting for something, so they are not aware about the group formations, okay. So that is termed as quasi groups. So quasi groups nothing but a groups which is an aggregate or combinations which lacks structure or organizations, and whose members may be unaware or less aware of the existence of groupings, okay. So if any questions come in the exam about quasi groups, so you can write a quasi groups is an aggregate or combination which lacks structure or organizations, and whose members may be unaware or less aware of the existence of groupings. So you can write from here till this much, and if you can take the example, you can give some example from here, okay. So this is the answer of the quasi groups. So now we have already know what is a quasi groups or what is a groups, okay. So let's see what are the characteristics of social groups. So any of the groups, how it can become a social groups. So what are the major criteria? If these criteria are fulfilled, then we can consider it as a social group. So let's see what are these criteria. So first one, there are 6 criteria are there. The first criteria is persistent interaction to provide continuity. So the important one is the persistent interaction to provide continuity. If there is no interaction between the members of these groups, we cannot consider it as a social groups. So this is the first criteria to become a social group is a interaction, that is also persistent interaction should be there, and it should continue. Suddenly or one day or 2 day this interaction will go on, and from the 3rd day or the 4th day this interaction may not be there. We cannot consider it as a social groups. Second feature, stable pattern of these interactions. So it should create a kind of pattern. Already I mentioned pattern means repetitive actions. When the repetitive actions or the behavior or repetitive interaction is going on, that will create a pattern. So repetitive means it is not only one time, two times, more than this, okay, continuously it will go on the same actions, that will create a pattern. So a stable pattern should be there of these interactions. A sense of belonging, to identify with the other members. Each individual is conscious of the group itself and its own set of rules, rituals and symbols. So the member of these social groups are aware, okay, they are conscious about their groups, why why they have come together, and they have a belonging to identify with other members, okay. The sense of belonging is also there. Each individual is conscious, they are conscious about the group formations and why they have come together, and its own set of rules, rituals and the symbols will be there. So in every social group we will find a kind of rules will be there. In this they have to, all the members of these groups need to follow these rules, and some rituals, and the symbols are also there, very important, okay. The symbols are also there and they will have to follow it, otherwise we cannot consider it as a social groups. So there are three more criteria. One, shared interest. So the groups or the member of these groups, all they have to share each other's interest in the groups. So if some people are not sharing their own interest in the groups, it cannot constitute as social groups. They have to share. That means all the individuals of these groups need to know about their interest, why they have come or why they have formed these social groups. Okay, clear? Next is acceptance of common norms and values. In social groups, there should be some common norms and the values should be there, which the member of the social groups need to follow. If there is no norms and the values, then for what they have come, it cannot be considered as the social groups. So norms and values are very much important. They have to follow and they have to accept. All the members of these groups need to accept these norms and values, which are very much, which are common, okay. The common norms and values should be accepted by the members of these social groups. And the last one is definable structure. There should be a definable structure should be there, which should be visible, okay. So all the members or those who are not members also, they can identify or they can nicely see what structures is there, okay. So here structures means, social structures here refers to patterns of regular and repetitive interactions between individuals or groups. So a pattern of regular and repetitive interaction should be there, okay. A patterns of regular and repetitive interactions between the individuals or the groups. So within the same groups, or maybe within the two individuals, or within the group member, whoever it is there, no, a repetitive interaction should be there, and which should a regular and should create a pattern of this kind of interactions. So I think let's see once again what are the 6 features of the social groups. First one, persistent interaction to provide continuity. Second one, stable pattern of these interactions. Third, a sense of belonging, to identify with other members. Each individual is conscious of the group itself and its own set of rules, rituals and symbols. Fourth, shared interest. Fifth, acceptance of common norms and values. 6, definable structures. So these are the 6 characteristics of the social groups. So let's see now what is a social groups. So now already we have come to know about the social groups, since we already know what are the characteristics of the social groups. So there are 6 characteristics which will constitute a social groups, okay. So let's see how we can write if any questions come in the exam. So what is the social groups? So we can write this answer, okay. Social groups refers to a collection of continuously interacting persons who share common interests, culture, values and norms within a given society. So let's see here what are the characteristics we have learned. One, collection of continuously interacting persons. The first features, who share common interests. They are sharing their own common interests, culture, They share the cultures also, same cultures will be there, and the values and the norms within a given society. So if you can write these answers, this will be correct. Okay, so you can write what is a social groups from this class. You can write, so you can write from here also, no, what is the social groups. You can write the whole answer, what is the social groups, and as you know that the characteristics of the social groups also from here you can write. So what are the characteristics of the social groups? There are 6 characteristics of the social groups. So these, all these 6 you have to write, understand. So these 6 you have to write, and then first you have to write with the social group, what is the social groups, you have to write this, then the characteristics of the social groups, these 6 features you have to write, and if the questions come about the quasi groups, so you have to write these quasi groups. So this is about today's class. In the next class we will discuss about the types of social groups. So let me just tell you what are the types of social groups, so that you can study at home, and then in the next class I will discuss about these types of social groups. So there are a few types of social groups. First types of social group is a primary and secondary social groups. There are a few types of social groups. First one is primary and secondary social groups. Then reference groups, peer groups, society and association, or we can say the community and society. Then in groups, out groups. So these are the few groups or the few types of groups we will discuss in the next class. I will expect all of you to study at home, and we will discuss again in the next class the same topic. Okay, thank you.